In this video, I'm giving you my ultimate guide to the long run. How I make it interesting, how I keep it varied, how I stop the brain rot and the monotony setting, and tips and tricks I've learned along the way, coming from a new runner to training for my first marathon. Let's get into it. My first tip for long runs and how you can make them easier, more fun, make you stick with them, and everything else in between is chunk it up. Now you can do this in a variety of ways, but what I mean basically is break it down into sections. Now that could be that you run 5 kilometers on the roads before you jump on the canals or the trails for 5 kilometers. Or what that might mean is, if you're like me and you are mid-marathon block where you've got these crazy 28, 30, 32 kilometer runs on the plan, I can usually run the first 10K with my partner who's not marathon training, so that's a reasonable long run for her. And I might then run 5K on the trails just to mix up the area I'm running. And then I'll meet my best friend for 5K. And that really just breaks it up into sections for me, which massively helps. There's another way to chunk up your runs to keep it varied and keep the brain from going crazy, but we'll get to that at the end. Okay, just taking a minute here, enjoying the sunshine, but the next tip that I would give you all guys is deploy an out and back strategy. We know these long runs are long and it can really get in your head when you're on that dreaded 30k long run and 15k and you're like, oh, I'm halfway. I think an out and back is a genius idea to help break these up. For those who don't know what I mean by an out and back is that means you run to a point which would be the halfway of the run. So if it's a 30k run 15k out, and then ultimately all you've got to do is get yourself home, and getting closer to the end goal and knowing the route, having already passed it and the milestones on the way already, does make it easier. And it sounds like it shouldn't or wouldn't, but it absolutely helps for me. Give it a go. It's certainly been one of the best things for me when I've been doing my long runs in keeping me on target and motivated. And ultimately as well guys, if you set out on an out and back, once you hit the halfway point, you know you're going to finish the run and complete the run because you've got to go home. So I think it's a very genius way and stops you just tailing off 10k in, cutting the run short, etc. Trying out and back, it might just help. Somewhat linked, but leads me perfectly into my next one, is destinations. Now, I did some really unique things when I was training for my half, and that was running to different places from my childhood or where cool things had happened. I remember when I was training for my first half, my long runs were about 12, 14k, which at the time was huge for me. And obviously it's in line with whatever you're training for and your goals. What that meant was I could stay fairly local, but still get a good distance from my house. So one day I decided to run to all the houses I used to live in growing up in the Manchester area. And another time I ran to my high school, which is now a couple of towns over from where I currently live. And yeah, it helped for me set some destinations, whatever they may be. They could be places you've been in the past, they could be cool parks or things you know, but go and try that, it might help. Now, one of my favorite things to do in the long run, guys, is to make it spicy. Now what I mean by that, guys, is you can add some variety into the middle of your long runs. And something I know is a huge strategy that most people use, which is, for example, I'm training for a marathon. So rather than just a 32 kilometer long run, what I might do is do 10k of that at marathon pace. It's mixing things up, it's changing the effort level, and it's really keeping me on my toes, as well as really pushing what this run is going to do for my marathon effort. And if you're trying to break up the monotony as well, you could, instead of doing it one 10k block at marathon pace, it could be 2 5k blocks with 5k normal in between. And I find the more things I've got to distract myself and the more changes in the workout, the less I get in my own head, and it makes those long runs fly by and much more enjoyable, especially when you can ramp the effort level up, get that sense of achievement of doing it. Because sometimes when you're on these huge, long, easy runs, it's just a case of time on feet, but being able to go, right, I'm going to push for 5k, then you get to ease off and cool down for 5 and go back at it. This stuff really helps me. It helps me feel like the session's working more, and more importantly, it keeps me out my own head and breaks up the run. Guys, you don't need to be doing those long runs on your own. Get yourself some company. The distraction, the other people, the conversation, all of it will really help the time fly, ignore the effort, keep you out of your own head, and keep that long run on track. And the way I see it, guys, when you're running on race day, you have so much stuff going on. People cheering you on, your family are there, 60,000 participants at big races. Why would you try and run a training run all on your own when you can get some company? Because I don't care what anyone says, training with people is just better. And don't get me wrong, there's a place for long runs on your own and runs where you want to clear your own head. But that is not these long runs. Get some company, help you get through it and make it more enjoyable. Next tip, guys, is entertainment. As I've mentioned in some of the other clips, guys, race day, you're not doing it solo, so why force yourself to be stuck in an absolute pain cave with nothing distracting you on these training runs? Entertainment is key, guys. That could be get some tunes going, have a playlist ready, or something that's going to motivate you. And something I've recently found works better for me for training runs is actually podcasts, because if I find a subject matter I like, it draws my attention, and I'm not just focusing on how long I've been running, how long I've got left, how far I've got left to go, etc. I'm zoned in, I tune into what I'm listening to, I tune out of the absolute monstrosity of whatever the session might be, and that is crucial. I recently had a 32k long run where 10k in, my phone died, and it was hell and the least enjoyable long run I've done in ages. So as I've said, guys, you're not doing race day on your own. There's people around you, whether that's other runners, people cheering on, etc. So why put yourself through it on training runs? Get some music, get some podcasts, make it enjoyable. Right, there you have it, guys. I hope that video was useful and that's give you some new tips and strategies to deploy on your long runs. They never need to look the same. You can make them all feel vastly different and deploy all sorts of techniques to make them feel much easier, much more bearable, and go way quicker. Hope this video has helped, and if you've got any long run strategies that you use that I've not thought of, let me know below. But now I need to go, because this video has been my excuse to not get my intervals done, and I'm going to enjoy the sunshine, so I'll see you in the next video. Peace.